Before 1967, Israeli takeover of the Temple Mount, the Muslims generally acknowledged that Temple Mount was the site of the Jewish temple. Muslims call the Temple Mount as Beit al-Maqdis. It's a translation of the Hebrew word Beit HaMikdash. In the Al-Aqsa guidebook published in 1920s and 1930s, the Supreme Muslim Council has identified the Temple Mount as the location of Solomon's temple. Let's take a section from the guidebook published in 1924. Okay, let's read. The two principal edifices are the Dome of the Rock on a raised platform in the middle and Mosque of Al-Aqsa. The site is one of the oldest in the world. Its sanctity dates from the earliest, perhaps from prehistoric times. Its identity with the site of Solomon's temple is beyond dispute. That's what Palestinians used to say before. But however, after 1960s, the narrative was changed due to political climate of the later times. So this is what Al-Aqsa guidebook from the 1990s read. The beauty and serenity of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem attracts thousands of visitors from all faiths annually. Some believe this was the location of the Temple of Solomon, blessing be upon him, which was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC, or the site of Second Temple, which was destroyed utterly by the Romans in 70 AD. Though there are no historical documents or archaeological testaments to corroborate this. And the last phrase, there are no historical documents or archaeological testaments, which is outright false. The Palestinians started calling the presence of earlier Jewish temples on the Temple Mount site as a Zionist lie and refused to engage on the historical and archaeological data presented to them. There are two lines of arguments often employed by the temple deniers. A person asked a question, what is the true history of Al-Aqsa? And this is the answer. Temple was a place of worship, and that what the Jews call the Temple of Solomon is not real. Rather, it is a myth and one of the lies of the Jews. The temple, which it is proven that Sulaiman built, is in fact Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, and he actually rebuilt it. He did not build it for the first time. So here we can see two lines of argument. So one line of argument completely denies the existence of the temple on the site and calls the Jewish claims as fraudulent and ahistorical. Another line of argument says King Solomon himself was a Muslim known as Prophet Sulaiman in Islam. And so the structure that he built on the Temple Mount was the mosque. It was not a Jewish structure, rather it was an Islamic structure. Therefore, Muslims would have greater right to that place, not the Jews. So this change of narrative has a greater implication among the Palestinians and Muslims around the world as well. Let's talk a little bit about the recent Palestinian obsession with Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now, Hamas has several institutions and entities named with the prefix Al-Aqsa. Hamas official TV channel is called Al-Aqsa TV. Hamas also runs Al-Aqsa University in the Gaza City, and Al-Aqsa Call and Guidance Society and Al-Aqsa Foundation, all associated with Hamas. Also, other extremist groups in the West Bank also have their own share of Al-Aqsa activism. More important is the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, a coalition of Palestinian armed groups in the West Bank. These are all categorized as terrorist organizations by European Union, various other countries, including UK, USA, and Israel. Their main narrative is this: Al-Aqsa is in danger, and they are the divinely sent soldiers to fight in defense of Al-Aqsa. Is Al-Aqsa really in danger? Well, this narrative that Al-Aqsa is in danger has been around for a while, at least 100 years. During the Mandate Palestine years, this narrative was originally manufactured and disseminated by Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Amin al-Husseini. The Second Intifada, or the Palestinian uprising against Israel, was called as Al-Aqsa Intifada. Al-Aqsa is a tool for jihad. After Hamas came to power in Gaza Strip in 2006, the name Al-Aqsa came more and more to the forefront. Hamas logo features Al-Aqsa Mosque prominently. In the recent years, they attempted to use Al-Aqsa as a rallying point to unite the Muslim world against Israel. They want to turn a regional land dispute into a holy war that involves the wider Islamic world. They constantly accuse the larger Islamic world, particularly Arabs, for not supporting them. Even Hamas call for an Al-Aqsa Day of Rage to go on violence against the citizens of Israel. They constantly accuse the larger Muslim world, particularly Arabs, for not supporting them in their fight to save Al-Aqsa. They mock Arabs and instigate them through their propagandist cartoons. There are also several cartoons that glorify violence in protection of Al-Aqsa. The obsession of Al-Aqsa has also led to several cases of real-world violence against Israelis. The Second Intifada, or the Al-Aqsa Intifada, resulted in the death of more than 1,000 Israeli civilians. Here is another statistic. 67 out of the 71 terrorist attacks carried out in Jerusalem between August 2014 to May 2016 were related one way or the other to the so-called crimes of the Jews on the Temple Mount and Al-Aqsa. The Hamas commander, Mohammed Deif, he cited so-called Israeli atrocities in Al-Aqsa as one of the reasons behind October 7 terror attack against Israelis. Here is a brief assessment. The temple denial narrative that the Palestinians adopted, it starts the history of the Temple Mount only from AD 637, from the time of the Muslim takeover of Jerusalem. It does not engage the long pre-Islamic history of the Temple Mount, which had significant Jewish temples and had seen hard resistance against the Roman colonial rule. This one-sided version of historical retelling has become a roadblock in the peace process between Israelis and Palestinians. Palestinians reject every archaeological evidence presented to them as Zionist hoax and a lie. Extremist groups like Hamas, they exploit the popular sentiment and present themselves as the guardians of their Islamic heritage that is under threat from Israeli Zionist settlers. If at all any change has to happen in the public psyche towards peaceful coexistence, it has to start with the acknowledgement of the pre-Islamic history of the Temple Mount and the Jewish presence on the mountain long before any invading Muslim army set foot on it.